What's up guys, Jake here. So today I'm going to be chiming in on a extremely controversial topic within the trans community. It's something that's been apparently up for debate for a while now. I'm here to share my own opinion on this matter. This is not a fact, this is not a form of education for how the rest of the trans community views this topic. So, do you need dysphoria to be trans? First of all, I want to start by saying there are multiple types of dysphoria. People surrounding this debate seem to be very fixated on a single type of dysphoria, which is body dysphoria. Body dysphoria, for those of you who don't know, is a type of dysphoria that is focused on your body. For example, things that indicate sex characteristics like your chest or your genitals or facial hair or anything like that. Basically anything that is influenced or developed via sex hormones like estrogen and testosterone. These are things that separate out males and females. And that is talking on a purely biological basis. There are many other types of dysphoria. For example, there is social dysphoria. That is a feeling when people around you don't view you as the gender you are, or anything in a social situation that makes you feel negative about yourself or your gender. But there are many subcategories of dysphoria. So, you don't need to hate your body to be trans. I don't think I really know anyone that is part of my generation that doesn't feel some kind of negative feeling towards their body, regardless of their gender. Although many people have embraced self-love and self-confidence and are working on those feelings, and I commend those people and I think it's very brave. It's a great way to move forward in a society that constantly shoves media down our throat with an idealized form of what people should look like. But continuing the dysphoria debate. Personally, I don't actually think you need dysphoria to be trans. I personally can't understand how somebody could come to the conclusion that they are trans without an element of what I would define as dysphoria. But I'm not going to try and say that those people don't exist. Just because I can't understand how it feels, just because I can't picture that emotion, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. There are cis people out there who say dysphoria isn't real, it's a mental disorder, and they basically imply what I am implying right now, which is that because they can't imagine that feeling, they don't think it exists. So I think when people realise they're trans, there is, in my brain, an element of dysphoria. For example, you feel that your brain and your identity doesn't match the idea that has been set out for you. And that idea that is set out for you could be by society, by your body. It's just anything that identifies you as the gender you were assigned at birth, based on your sex characteristics and your genitalia. So I think if there is a mismatch there, that is what I would personally define as dysphoria. But if somebody doesn't label that dysphoria because they're like, well, it doesn't actually make me feel negative, it's just something that makes me realise it's not quite right and I would be happier and live a more fulfilling life if those things weren't there, then sure, I guess. So I'm not trying to invalidate anyone who says they don't feel dysphoria but they are trans. I think the main problem I have with this debate is gatekeeping. Gatekeeping in our community has become a huge issue. This was something that I was previously only really seeing in the wider LGBTQ+ community, where they were saying things like ace people don't belong in our community, or demisexuality isn't real, or pansexuality isn't real, and trying to say that people don't belong in LGBTQ+ safe spaces because of their identities. In my mind, if you are not cis, you are not heterosexual, you are not heteroromantic, all of those exclusively, then you belong in our community. But gatekeeping is the thing that gets to me most. I don't pretend to have all of the answers or understand every single identity completely. I don't really understand how it feels to be asexual. I don't really understand how it feels to be demisexual. I don't understand how it feels to be female. It doesn't mean I would look at people with those identities and say, well, because I don't understand it, and because it doesn't make sense to me, you can't feel that. This all comes down to words, and the way we define words, and the way we communicate with each other. I think that words fail us, and that feelings are way more important in this situation. I think what somebody defines as dysphoria for another person is not dysphoria, even though it could be the exact same feeling. I think we're too caught up in what we label things and how we communicate with language rather than just saying, okay, if this is how you identify, I accept you. And this is not saying that anybody can walk into this community and say, okay, so I decide to be this gender now. It's not a decision, it's an identity. And as long as these people aren't spreading misinformation and saying that certain things are fact, certain things are wrong and are right, then I don't see the harm in it. If you're not harming another person and you're not harming another community, what is so wrong with this theory? What is so wrong with the idea that somebody could just not have dysphoria and be trans? I personally, I still don't really even know where my feelings actually lie on this topic. I don't know if I believe 100% that you can not have dysphoria and be trans, but I'm not going to sit there and tell somebody you're not trans because you said this about yourself. Because guess what? I don't have the right to do that. I don't have the right to tell somebody else how they feel. I don't have the right to tell somebody whether they belong in this community or not. If they are not harming other people, then what's the issue? I feel like some of you might pick up on a certain thing I've said in this video and say that I'm contradicting myself. Saying that if you're cis, heterosexual and heteroromantic you don't belong in this community, that's not gatekeeping, because it's literally in the definition of the community. These are the differences of language. There are certain things that are definitions and there are certain things that are fluid, that are more about emotions, more about identities. If you identify as a cishet, you're not queer. Therefore, you don't belong in our safe space. Basically, I'm of a mindset that seems to be severely lacking in this community, that I don't have the right to tell people what they can and can't do. I don't have the right to tell people how they should and shouldn't feel. I might have my opinions on that matter, but I am not going to enforce that on another person. I am not going to tell them that they are right or they are wrong. I'm not going to use my opinion as if it's a fact held by the entire community. One person's perspective on life should never be forced on everyone else. I think there are some fundamental basics, which are don't cause harm to other people, don't attack other people in a safe space. I think those are a base level that we should all be agreeing on. But aside from that, it's not my place. And that's not me shifting off my responsibility as a trans person and saying, oh, it's too difficult for me, so I don't really want to say. No, I'm taking responsibility for my own opinions. I'm saying, I don't know whether I think you can be trans without dysphoria, but you know what? I don't really care. If there's somebody out there that is trans and doesn't have dysphoria, and is spreading ideas like, you shouldn't have dysphoria because I don't think you should because I don't and I'm trans people should stop hating their bodies because it's pointless, or gatekeeping the trans identity in another way, then I don't agree with them. And that's not because of how they feel, that's because of how they act. So I will never disagree with somebody based on their identity or how they feel, but I will judge a person based on what they say and how they act. Because after all, that is the only thing that matters. Somebody else being who they are has no direct impact on your life, no matter whether you think it does or not. You can push yourself into that person's business and you can say, your identity offends me, but that's not their fault, that is yours. It is your fault that you feel that way. Because of your own insecurities, because of your own feelings, your feelings are manifesting themselves into an action against another person. That person's feelings are their own, and they're holding on to them. They're living their life, they're having that identity within themselves. They are not pushing those feelings into an opinion and into an action that is negatively affecting the people around them. I hope I worded that in the way that I mean. Basically, this whole thing boils down to, you can feel however you feel, whether I agree with that or not, that is yours. That is not my business, that is not anybody else's business. Nobody has the right to tell you whether you are right or wrong within your own feelings, because guess what? They don't feel your feelings. And if you are out there trying to police people, trying to say that somebody's identity is invalid just because of how they feel, you're kind of an asshole. You're pushing yourself into somebody else's life, into somebody else's existence, just because you don't think they should feel that way. I don't walk down the street, go into a church and say, your God doesn't exist, and that offends me. Just because I don't believe in God or I don't believe in a certain organized religion doesn't give me the right to go around knocking door to door and telling people they're wrong, telling people that they shouldn't feel that way, that they shouldn't hold those beliefs. Because that's a shitty thing to do and you have no right to do that. So to wrap this all up, that was my opinion. I am not trying to force this opinion on other people. I am not trying to attack other people for having their opinions. I am merely using my platform to spread this message. If you would like to discuss it with me, I am open to doing that, but know that you willingly clicked on this video and listened to my opinions. I am not coming to your house to tell you that you're wrong. You're coming to my house to listen to me, to actively listen to me, telling you that I don't believe in what you believe. So, There we go. Well, I hope you enjoyed me rambling about the dysphoria debate. If you would like to see more slightly controversial topics like this, please leave a like, please leave a comment. I am open to discussing this issue in a respectful manner. I will be deleting any blatant insults or any people yelling at each other in the comments because I can, because it's my channel. If you like what you see and you would be interested in buying some merch, I have some cool things that I've just put up online. I have these little gender euphoria mirrors. They come in pink and blue. I also have an iron-on patch which has some lyrics from my song Pink and Blue. Some pretty cool Polaroids of my face, because I'm vain, apparently. And lastly, the local pretty boy pin is back, slightly revamped with a new look, and I think it's pretty neat. The link to buy all that is down in the description. I hope you have a lovely day. Please love yourself, stay hydrated, and know that I love you.